DNA, is it a clue that points to the complexity of our makeup and highlights a creator? Or is it just a random act of biology that's defined by materialism? Let's talk about it.
I watch too much materialistic content is my problem, so I'm always getting the other side. One response that I'll hear often is the idea that it's just biology and the information is being imposed by the human.
Is the genetic code really a code?
It certainly is a code. You can read it as a code, but even transcribe a book into DNA letters, and you could read it out again. You could preserve it in DNA. That's how code-like it is. It really is completely code-like code. A digital code is merely quaternary rather than binary, and of course it's not put together by design.
So, Dave, do you agree that DNA contains highly specific information?
Of a living organism, yeah. Not in general. Right? It can be, you can have a DNA strand of any random nucleobases, but the DNA of a living organism has the code for that organism. Yeah.
Okay, so DNA is not just like a chemical blob. It stores instructions using symbolic sequences.
No, it's not a symbolic sequence. It's a sequence of nucleobases, right? You just have ACTG in some order. That doesn't make it a blob, right? So let's save some time. You're going to do a whole like specified information William Dembski thing, right?
Computer code.
So he basically, the guy in the top right, he conceded that it has code and it's a sequence. Let's just say hypothetically, we never knew what computers were. Let's just say that we found a piece of a computer or the whole computer itself. And over the course of hundreds and thousands of years, we started to learn more about this computer. And we discovered that written inside of the processor or written inside of the memory, it's all of these different sequences and codes. Would it be more rational to believe that this computer that we discovered that we've never seen before, would it be more rational to believe that it just was a process of evolution or that it was just a process that came from a mind? Which one would be more rational? Now, I get it. Obviously, you can point to things like, well, when we think of human DNA, we've seen humans and we've studied humans adapting and certain things changing. So it could point to evolution. Yeah. But what I think is that pointing back to the origin is important, because if you get to the origin, you can always ask the daunting question of how does information, sequential information that has instruction, how does that begin to exist? That's always the $1 million question. So, and again, what's more rational? Super highly complex instructional information becoming into existence just by happenstance or chance, or it being ordered into existence? Which one is more rational to believe?
Books, blueprints, software.
Yeah, those are all things that humans created. Humans can create things. That doesn't mean that DNA was made by intelligence.
Do humans have minds? Do humans have minds?
Let's get a finger on the mute and disconnect button here. This guy's getting real testy.
One of the irritating arguments that I get like every day is this stupid notion that that coded information always comes from a mind, and therefore DNA is proof of God. Because
my question is, how is it stupid to think that coded information comes from a mind? Even in reality, we see that all the time. I mean, what does it come from then? Everything you could think of technologically has code in it. Is that stupid to think that it came from a mind? By the way, you can see the upside down cross in the background. Yeah, I think it points to people's stubbornness, because if you ask me, it's way more rational to believe that anything you see complex, especially if it's highly sequenced information and it has instruction, I immediately go to a designer, a creator, a mind. It makes sense. It's not stupid to believe that. But I think the implications that has, if somebody admits to that, is where people struggle on wanting to admit that. Because if you can admit that, then obviously there being a God that exists, the possibilities of that shoot through the roof. If you can admit that the complexities of the human DNA has to come from a mind. You're not going to get somebody who doesn't want there to be a God to admit that.
DNA is assumed to be a code. And but while we could argue that there is an analogous interpretation of that, if we were to say that because of this analog in our understanding, that we say that changes in the construct will produce different proteins or whatever, and therefore that it codes for different proteins. If we use that kind of language and call it a code in that capacity, then DNA would be the exception to the rule, because it obviously does not come from a mind, and there's no way that a mind could do that.
For the person who
There's no way that a mind could do that. Got it.
sort of thinks it's just biology doing biology, and we're the ones.
Yeah, this objection in a number of ways is that, well, the idea of information is just a metaphor, or we're imputing the presence of information and we're anthropomorphizing. But actually, there's a very specific mathematical definition of the kind of information that's present inside living systems. It's Shannon information plus specificity required for function. And so when you break down what's actually going on, what's going on meets the definition of specified information, or as Leslie Orgel, one of the early or pioneers in origin of life research, termed it specified complexity. People a lot of times will say, well, specified complexity, that's an intelligent design terminology that they invented. No, it came out of origin of life research. Orgel was contrasting crystals that have a repetitive and highly ordered pattern, NaCl, NaCl, redundancy, where you get the same pattern over and over again, with random polymers that perform no function. They've just a series of, say, amino acids that can do nothing, with polymers, biomacromolecules that have the property of specificity of arrangement in order to produce a function. And that's what we call specified complexity. And in our uniform and repeated experience, which is what's present in DNA, what's present in proteins, and in our uniform and repeated experience, which is the basis of all scientific reasoning, whenever you see specified complexity or specified information would be another way to refer to it, it's always the product of a mind. And so there's a very precise definition of from.
So DNA has specified complexity. That's a fact. If this specified complexity is written within our bodies, what's the reason that it got there?
From the information sciences of the type of phenomenon that's present in DNA and in RNA, in proteins, and that phenomenon can be called a specified complex sequence. And when we have specified complexity present in any system where we've known the origin, it's always been the product of intelligence. So this is not something that's being imputed. This is something that's present in the molecule. And when the whole of molecular biology is built on teleological language, unavoidable teleological language, we have code, we have text, we have code, we have translation, we have transcription, we have information processing systems. This is the way molecular biologists have to talk to describe what's going on. And we're also discovering known computer design patterns in the information processing system of the cell. You have automated error correction. You can watch it happening. We have spell check in the computer. Well, we've got automated error correction in molecular biology. You have hierarchical filing of information. There's a hierarchical organization of the information in the genome and beyond the genome. And so these when we had a computer programmer from Microsoft, and one of their elite architect level programmers several years ago, write 10,000 lines of code so that we could depict the gene expression system, the protein, the system of protein synthesis. One day he came into my office and threw a book down on my table called Design Patterns, a manual for software engineers. And he said, I get an eerie feeling that someone figured this out before us. And I said, what do you mean? And he explained that a design pattern is a known strategy for storing or processing digital information. And there are multiple known computer design patterns at work inside the cell that he was learning about as he was learning how the information in DNA is expressed in proteins. So information in living systems is not merely a metaphor. It's not a concept that we're imputing onto what's going on in biology. by any reasonable understanding of key definitions of types of information, there is a very important type of information present in the cell, and that is specified information or functional information or specified complexity, where each of these terms means roughly the same thing.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. I don't think you have to be those to look at the information. But if you're telling me that DNA has specified complexities and it has all of these hierarchical functions, error correcting automation, if you're telling me that, and if that's what science has confirmed, I think it would be more asinine to think that it didn't come from intelligence. What do you guys think? Let me know. DNA, I think it's one of the many things that always points to God himself. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe. And as always, I appreciate you guys.